I feel the attempt is to stunt us and to offer us back that which has been taken away from us, our potential, in little bite-sized, manufactured replica pieces. So it they're not new ideas. They are, in my opinion, they are replicating that which is within us that they've already learned, and they're holding back from our knowledge, and then they're taking that and they're replicating to some degree elements of that which is naturally us, and saying, oh well, we'll just offer you this, we'll just give you a little bit of that. Aren't we wonderful? Aren't we amazing? Remember this as well, just thinking, nothing is really new. It's inspired from somewhere, like the wheel. Uh, Look at martial arts. You know, all the different forms of martial arts, like the crane and the, you know, it's always animals that some martial artist observed and learned from. So when someone comes along, some scientist, and puffs up their chest and beats their chest and goes, "Oh yeah, you know, I know everything, and I am the Bill Gates of the world. I have the authority and the wisdom and the knowledge to take you down this corridor that is no return, but and don't ask questions." And they do that by creating a situation like we're in. So it's like, we don't have time to question this. Let's just go. Come on, hurry up through this corridor. Get through. Get through. Well, that has me very ill at ease. And also the fact that people defend them to such an extent also has me really ill at ease too, because that tells me a lot. And I've mentioned this before many times in other situations. I have focused on energy, healing, and not necessarily in this order, but patterns. I notice I've always worked with patterns, connections, links between things, but the patterns. And so I catch patterns quick, way before research that I need to do. And that determines what I want to follow and what I want to research, are these patterns that come to me. And I go, oh, you know, kind of like in the Matrix, I guess, the glitch in the program. That would be a pattern that you'd notice. Oh, it's like a little fray in a hem on a piece of clothing. You know, you notice it. You go, oh, look at that. And I do believe it's what I read, anyways, when I was young about the Shipibo tribes in Peru that I went to do work with 5 years ago. Uh, you know, the medicine man would the vegetalista ayahuasquero would be able to look at you and see unhealthy patterns, and then do various things to bring those patterns, those frequencies that they saw, back into harmony. And that inspired my soul print work. And that was my intention at the initial beginning of my awakening, if you want to call it that. It was that aspect. So anyways, jumping right back, that was quite a tangent. One of the things that I want to provide here as service is really deep, intensive healing soul print work. And that's what's going to be necessary, is for me to let go completely of my previous conceptions and misconceptions, some of them, to embrace something deeper within. And I also wanted to be in the forest because I felt the energy of the forest, of the trees, and I feel really, really nurtured here, and I feel that something new from within me is able to safely come forth, surface, and develop. And that the situation that I'm in, I can focus on, oh, well, for me, oh, gee, this happened to me, and so on. Now, I will acknowledge things of that sort. That's on one wavelength. But on another length, regardless, I am grateful because I feel I need to embrace where I am now, because as I embrace each step, as I unfold here, and how things unfold that I intend to share with you, and hopefully you'll see some of these as well. You'll get to see real time as it happens. As cause I don't know what's happening next either, but you'll get to see how whatever nomad becomes, you'll get to see how it is becoming in a natural way. We have intentions. We imagine that we're going to create sort of an enchanted forest sort of thing, and just an area where if you walked through on the trails, that alone will cause a certain amount of awakening and resourcing in nature, even without getting a soul print tattoo. But to take that further, imagine immersing yourself in this healing environment as it evolves, and get your soul print in this nest, in this chrysalis type form. I like I'm listening to nature. I'm listening to the voice of the universe as it speaks to me. I'm learning when I'm blocked, and when I feel alone is when my blockages don't allow that. And I'm learning how to open up more. And I know that this situation that's happened to me and Raven is also to wake us up more if I go with it, if I recognize it. And as I go through this, I will voice my experiences. It doesn't, just to clarify, it doesn't mean anyone out there has to feel threatened that it doesn't match theirs. That's okay. You know, all the power to everyone. But I do want people, my ideal outcome, one of them outcomes of this is that people who don't agree with me at least can say, okay, I get where he's coming from now. He's not a wacko. It all makes sense. It's just, I don't agree with him. And that's cool. That's great. You know, and blessings, be on your merry way. Feel free to watch as we evolve, whatever. It does not matter. I think there's plenty of room for everyone and their realities, in my opinion. No, I don't buy into the way that this lockdown has happened. I don't agree that it was the right way to do anything. The amount of fallout I haven't seen, it doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but I have not in all of this time come across anyone who has been ill from the COVID-19. And it doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but it means obviously there's not as much of it happening. As what I have noticed en masse is so many people getting strokes, hemorrhages, rashes, shingles coming back over and over again. Strange things from, maybe it's just from the stress, from the lockdown, from breathing through masks. Who knows? I'm not claiming I know. But it does not feel right, or in my language, there's something in the patterns that tell me something is wrong. Now, you may not buy that and go, oh, God, look at that wacko. He thinks he knows patterns. He's using patterns, and I use Snopes. Well, you can use Snopes, and I can use patterns. I trust my pattern recognition way, way more than some fact checker, which has got, someone, getting their minimum wage, looking up shit the way they've been told to look it up. Just the way medical profession, if they express their own personal views, doctors, scientists, or other, they're chucked out. They're exterminated, so to speak, and they're defaced. They're ridiculed, and you can find all kinds of ridicule on Google about them because Google's involved. Many of you are waking up to this and you're seeing what's going on and how this is happening and how it's not fair. But basically, your doctors, your surgeons, your scientists are under the thumb screws. And if they ever say anything of their own feelings, if they're to have their own feelings, they're kicked out. I'm saying that again in a different way. So how can you trust any of these healers? And I think, from my opinion, Western medicine works the best in ER. emergency situations. That's where I think they've got it. When you gotta. And you have no time, it's gotta be done quick. Someone's bleeding out, blah, blah, blah. A tourniquet, as an example, works in a situation like no other, but you can't leave the tourniquet on, or the person's arm or leg or whatever will drop off and rot. So it's a temporary fix, and that to me is Western medicine. And it's tried to grow like a cancer and take over everything because it doesn't know its own limitations, and therefore blocks the future, blocks all information that's coming through in order to hold on to its losing grasp, its deteriorating grasp. As it gets more frantic, it needs to up the ante to gain and hold control over the people, hence a global lockdown. These are the tactics. I watch my dog, Tor, who's the more dominant of the two. He doesn't do it to be nasty or anything, but he wants my focus above all. So he will get in between me and Khaleesi to get that attention. He doesn't want to lose that attention. And on a certain level, that is part of it right there. It's just, you could say, human nature gone berserk. But yeah, I'm really holding on to a new, it's not a new dream for me, but it's a more new reinforced dream, of natural medicine. I mean, what are we? We're organic, we're natural. And what is Western medicine based on? Synthesized concoctions that they believe are better than a natural source that it originally was inspired from or came from. Like, just let that sink in for a bit. Of course, under the guise of, well, it's easier to control this synthetic substance because we can dish it out, measure it out better, whereas with the organic it fluctuates in potency and so on. Maybe that's important too. Maybe that's part of the wisdom that flows through the veins of life. And maybe we've had too much imposed on us artificially already. And maybe that's also why a lot of us don't recognize how artificial what is happening right now is. This lockdown, this, people not being able to breathe properly. I see people walking the streets, driving their cars everywhere with masks on. It's horrible to me. To me, it's horrible. To someone else, it's wonderful and it's hope. But to me, it's horrible, and I'm just explaining why it comes across as horrible to me. I see so many people in fear, and I believe it's partly because we have been trained to think a certain way and see certain limitations that have been set up in a way that we will then, in a case like this, completely buy it hook, line, and sinker. And it's quite tragic, but at the same time, there is the sacred side to it, which those in control could never be in control of. You could call it a byproduct of their intentions that they can't stop, and that is the awakening process that many of us are going through. And I thank the universe every day, every morning, every night for this. It can't be blocked out. God is bigger and stronger and more powerful than Bill Gates. That I choose to call God, that which is within, which is infused through everything, which is realizing moment by moment life unfolding through each one of us and our experiences, good and bad. That is how God is awakening through us. We are and a part of and a whole. It's sort of like a hologram, I guess. You break a hologram and you get little pieces. Each has a view of that whole. And I think in some ways, metaphorically speaking, that is sort of us. We're individual and we're part of a whole. But something's being fragmented here, the attempt at least, and control and the, I believe, slavery of humanity on a certain level. And you can chuckle, a lot of times chuckling is a form of nervousness that which hides the fear that lies really deep beneath, like a part of you knows. And I just encourage people, if you don't have reason to fear, then allow yourself to just sit with these concepts and not have to ridicule them and push them away because they're different. And if you think about it, a lot of the things that we have a problem with from the past that we look back on not having been there, it's the same dynamic. Like even the treatment of another culture or a group of people with a different skin color, whatever, of seeing them at a time period or other where they're lesser than. How can humans do that? Well, it's a certain perspective. At the time, I would have to believe that probably most of those humans involved in that bias of whatever kind felt righteous about it and felt that was right. Just the way right now, people feel quite righteous and quite correct in believing that, say, people with my view or a variety of views that have been categorized into this one area should be ridiculed and laughed at and scorned and belittled. I see it as no different, and yet those are the same people doing that and feeling those feelings and judging who are criticizing the past duplicate of that in a different form, whether it's skin color, culture, belief systems, a lot of reasons. So I do believe that we all have a lot to go within and dig through before we can start throwing stones and accusations and commands, like my way or the highway type of commands, which is what I feel that I'm stuck in right now to some degree. I'm not stuck in it. I have free will, but it's as stuck as you can make it stuck. I haven't been able to work for more or less a year. A couple of times there were little openings. I have been forced out of, because I couldn't work, I've been forced out of being able to build myself back up and recover. It was prevented, it was prohibited completely. So that's why I am now where I am, and like I said, I'm grateful for it because I see another side to it. But from the side of what forced me into it, it still doesn't make it just. It still doesn't mean that the Canadian government is worth anything in my eyes. They are partly responsible for where I am, where Raven is, for her cancer getting to a high level stage 3 cancer, a lot more serious than many other kinds, is largely because of the lockdown and the inability to have just naturally, gone and had checkups more frequently, and being so distracted and under so much stress as well, which we all know all contribute to things like this. So yeah, I acknowledge that. I don't waste time and energy dwelling on it, but it is my truth, and I will state it. And then I move on. I recognize, okay, now that I'm here, what is here? What are the qualities? What does it have to offer? What does my situation have to offer? Well, that's a lot, and that may be one of my next little episodes, is to go into that aspect, because it's rich. Where I'm at is rich. I have cut down a whole bunch of my responsibilities, and I still have some big ones hurdles to get over. Like, number one, getting a roof over my head when I'm not really eligible for financing because of what lockdown did, which is kind of a sort of like a oxymoron type of a dynamic. It cancels itself out. It's like I have zero credit rating, you might say. I have zero reason why a financing company would want to finance me for a trailer, let's say, even though it's a pittance compared to say a mortgage for a house. I'm going from like $700,000 or $800,000 mortgage to a, it's not a mortgage, but let's just for parallel, to a $30,000 monthly financing bill. Quite a difference, but yet I'm not even, I was eligible before, no problem, hands down, for years, for an $800,000 mortgage. Oh, they loved me. You know, I've paid so much taxes in my life. Got my business to a point where I was, I don't know, netting $200,000 a year for the whole business. That's other employees, but that's all through my hands. There was not another tattoo artist or anything. Purely through how many hours I put into the day of very high-focused, high-quality, heart-based work. And just through lockdown, I have been reduced down to where it's like tying my hands behind my back and saying, okay, yeah, go ahead, go work, do your thing, but yeah, your hands are tied behind your back. So this has been an artificial situation that has put me where I am, if you want to call it that. And so my process is to acknowledge it in the real, what has happened, what has led me to this, and then to let go of that and to move on and look into that, the creative side of things, and the bounty that has been offered to me. So that's kind of how I processed everything. I want it. It is important to acknowledge what got me here, and that it definitely was not a fair thing on the part of the government that tries to make it sound like they're doing the right thing. But at the same time, now that I'm here, and I'm not even able to be with my wife, who's going through a lot of physical, emotional, mental difficulty right now in her healing crisis, and she has to be by herself. She can't be with me. It's too stressful. It's not the right environment for someone healing and in a lot of pain every day. It's easy for me to get angry. It's very easy for me to get frustrated and to feel like I want to lash out at, the government or officials that think they know everything. Or even moments of being angry at individuals who take the lockdown rules way beyond what is necessary into their own hands and feel that, well, if we're told that people have to wear a mask, I'm going to demand that they wear 5 masks and not let them buy something unless that happens. And that happened to me at Home Hardware in Barry's Bay. And I got a hold of the manager and checked with him. I got a hold of the owner, and they all backed this scared little person that felt that they needed to virtue signal and put me through the torture chamber, so to speak, with a lineup behind me, because I had a visor on, outdoors, in the wind, with a plexiglass partition between us, her inside with her 2 masks on, and yet she would not serve me unless I put on one of her masks and not my visor. That's just an example of someone taking things into their own hands and feeling like, well, if I just multiply what I'm supposed to do by 5 or 10, I'm the new leader. I'm the new authority. And I think there's a lot of people like that too. Some of it's just out of fear. Other times it's a control issue, and people find, oh, I got a little niche here and I get to feel, it's like the security guard that wanted to be the cop but couldn't make it, and so they walk around and they love the sound of the keys, and their little truncheon thing, and pretend it's a gun. And so I see a lot of that as well, and I do my best to just love the person and understand they have a lot of frailties beneath the surface, and that is all it is. But these are the things that I see. I see good and the bad and the ugly, all of it. And a government that encourages it. So that's the thing. And I'm just hoping that more and more people wake up from this. And it doesn't, waking up, just to be clear and emphasize, I've said it so many times, it does not mean that I think there's nothing going on out there. But I do believe that it is nothing like what they say it is. And They are capitalizing on some little thing to distort and control the masses. And if people aren't careful, there will be a no way out kind of situation for them. And also, on top of that, please, if you really feel that is the most important thing in the world, leave those of us that don't want to do it, that don't share that belief, alone. Thank you.